Okay, hey family, how we doing? How we doing? Glad you guys could be here with me, and we are going to move right along as we normally do. I want to say thank you so much um, for stopping by because you could have been anywhere else tonight and you chose to be here. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, and video discs under certain circumstances. This is called fair use without the authorization of the copyright holder. It is allowed and is for purposes of criticism and news reporting and teaching and parody, which doesn't infringe on the copyright of the holder under 17 USC 107. And, as we continue through this, we must always keep our heads down and our hands up. We got to always stay praying, keep praying, keep praying, keep praying. Pray for the hope of Israel. Pray that the Father will come and redeem us in our lifetime. Pray for our children. Pray, 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 pray always. Man, look, every day I'm throwing my hands up. Most times out of exasperation, but I'm throwing my hands up. If I'm not doing it right out in public, I'm, inside my spirit, I'm throwing my hands up, Father, man, because I really need it every day. We got to stay inside these words, search the scriptures like the Bereans, and pay attention to what's going on around us. You see, the scriptures tell us, what's going on, like reading tomorrow's newspaper today. And because of that, we are able to look at things around us in our world, in our future and in our past, and see, what is right going on inside these scriptures. I tell you, man, I look around every day and I see so many things, and people don't really realize like the things that we see when we start talking about some of the things that we've seen. And so I'm going to tell you like this. When I was in high school, a paper was written called the Gay Manifesto. Now, people will tell you that it was fake, didn't exist, wasn't real. But whether it's like the Willie Lynch letter, whether somebody, whether as I said, whether Willie Lynch either existed or not, whether he was a real person or not, the things that were in that letter have occurred to us. It has happened. Whether that man was a real man or he was a fake made up man, that doesn't matter. The things that were in the body of the letter have actually happened to us. I'm sorry, I'm sitting here at my piano. Have actually happened to us, as a people. It has happened to us. The Willie Lynch syndrome. So then, not only that, we see things going on around us today that are actually occurring in our world, like Byron Allen is suing Comcast. Okay, so the scriptures tell us the different things that are going to happen, wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilences. But what it doesn't say is all the little steps that the world elite powers, the governments, are going to take in order to get us to the situation of wars and rumors of wars, or get us to the famines and the pestilences, or get us to being delivered up to councils where we're snitching on each other and turning each other in so we can give a testimony. It doesn't tell us all the little increments that they do to get us there, but it tells us the end result. There's going to be a time when this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, but it doesn't give you all those increments in between. Okay? Now, excuse me, I've been at work all day, and I've been sitting here. I'm working on a song right now. As you see me sitting at my piano, I'm sitting here working on a song right now. and I wanted to come here and read some Flavius before I got too busy with this, because I was over in here setting up some vocal parts, some vocal harmonies, because I'm working on this song I wrote, well, long time ago. And for some reason, one of my students, um, um, this came back up because of one of my students today on Facebook. I've been working with this girl since she was maybe 8 years old. She's a grown woman now. She lives in North Carolina, but she sent me a Facebook message, and my students, especially the children that I've worked with, they remain in my life. And and so she sent me a message earlier, and oh, that came from, this is what I want. So she sent me she sent me a message earlier, and so I was at work when I got it, and then I saw something else on her page, and it broke my heart, man. I'm telling you, these children. I never knew that she was struggling with this particular thing, and it broke my heart, and it made this song come back up. I came home, and I was sitting here playing with my piano, and "Where Are You Now" came up, and I sat at the piano, and I almost was in tears. I was almost in tears sitting here singing the song, and she said, "Big Papa, it's time. I can't stop hearing the music. It's all pouring out of me. This is it." So, last year, maybe a year and a half ago, I sent her an audio interface for her computer, and we started talking about setting up her oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, setting up her laptop for her to be able to start to record. I said, okay, so I've been working with you all these years as far as your voice. The girl can sing. I've been working with her, and I've had some phenomenal students over the years. And I picked them, those students that I picked to work with, because I don't work with every child. I don't work with all kids, because most of them don't have the attention span for the level that I want to go at. They'll stay with you for a minute, and then they're off into something else because they're kids, and that's cool. But for the kids that have the attention span, they really want to go here, I teach them how to sing. I teach them professionally how to work in the studio, how to use your voice, because there's a way to get your voice over on when you're recording. And so this track, excuse me, I got a couple different things going on here. So this track was, "Where are you now? 'Cause I need you now. Where are you now? 'Cause I need you. Where are you now? 'Cause I need you now." So, let me turn that off. So, being able to, we loaded the software into her laptop, got her squared away, and then things happened, and she went this way, and her laptop went another direction. It was still in the family, still being able to be used, but she just didn't have control of her own laptop, and she's sitting here with her audio interface. I'm like, "Look, baby, you need this microphone. You need this, you need that. I gave you the audio interface. You have your laptop. We load the software on it and the whole nine." And so that song came back up, "Where Are You Now?" And I was just like, I was sitting here in tears. It's like a worship song for me. And I was sitting here playing it and setting up the vocals so that I could re-record it. Because of her, I want to go back in and re-record it, because there's a lot of songs that I've written, but I haven't finished them. I wrote them as demos, whatever, and didn't finish them. And so when I found out that she was having this issue, or that she had this issue, this thing that she went through, I didn't even know that she had gone through that. And it broke my heart. And I was like, I've never been in a position like that, where the enemy came to me and tried to convince me to leave this plane of existence. I've never been there. And that broke my heart, because we're talking about babies. We're talking about children. And even though she's a grown woman now, 24, 23, 24, that's still a baby. That's you have not even begun to live your life. And for the enemy to come to rob, steal, kill, and destroy the children, that's how, see, we are in those days. These are the days right now when the attack is full blown. It's fully out there. So I wanted to share that, and I want to encourage whomever might be struggling with anything. It's not over. It is not over. Yeshua is going to come. He's going to redeem us, and everybody who ever made a tear fall out of our eye, family or otherwise, they're going to pay for it. I got my own to pay for. I've caused some tears. I repent all the time, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get off. You know what I'm saying? I just pray for mercy because we got to answer for every thought and deed done in this body. And I've done some things. And so I got to answer for it. You know, I just pray for mercy. You got to answer for it. You better start praying for mercy. You know, so Byron Allen is got this case going on with Comcast right now, and it could roll back a law that was done during the time when the slaves got freed, which would give us a place to be able to come to the table and compete in the marketplace. And Comcast is trying to play the role like we deal with black people, but they're not talking about the fact that, okay, I might deal with you, but I'm not giving you access and helping you succeed, right? So I'm letting you come to the table, but I'm not letting you eat. You can sit at the table with me, but I'm not letting you eat, okay? And if I let you eat, I'm gonna give you a little piece of what I want you to have. You can't reach up on the table and grab anything and grab something off the table because I got you sitting at the table. When you go to reach for a piece of meat, smack your hand back. I didn't tell you you could have that. Cut him a piece. Just cut him a piece and put it on his plate. But you can't reach up and grab what you want. You know, you can come to the table, but you can't eat. So Byron Allen has this thing going on right now, and so Roland Martin was talking about it, and I've been following this for the last few days. If you guys haven't been following this, you might want to follow this. Let me get it on the screen here. Here we go. You might want to follow this. Let this roll for a minute and let you check this out. Check this out.
Filter.com, you can make this possible. Yesterday, Diddy released an official statement basically telling Comcast to stop using my damn name. Now, of course, Comcast has been fighting Byron Allen over his lawsuit against them for not carrying his networks. They went to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court is going to rule on a portion of the lawsuit, which will determine whether the lawsuit can go forward and what legal argument he can use. So, what Comcast has been doing, Comcast has been saying, hey, wait a minute. Look at all of these other black networks we provided opportunities to. They mentioned TV One. They mentioned Revolt. Of course, Diddy's network. They mentioned Aspire, which was given to Magic Johnson. My understanding, Aspire has now been sold. I'm trying to confirm that. I'll give more back details. They talked about Afro TV and some other black networks that they have actually put out there, as well as Latino networks. So Diddy dropped this letter. Let's just say he ain't too happy. My name and my network, Revolt, have been mentioned recently by Comcast in reference to the Comcast Byron Allen U.S. Supreme Court case as an example of Comcast's inclusive.
So hold on for a minute. Oh, stop.
It's true that we are in business with Comcast.
Stop.
It's not accurate to use my name or my network as an example of inclusion.
Okay, so I don't think the audio is coming across, and I'm gonna back that up, and I'm gonna play it again just to make sure that the audio is coming across. I want you guys to hear this. I'm gonna put my microphone on it because I can see it going into the system, but I can't guarantee that it's actually going where I want it to go. So let me see if I can put my microphone on it because sometimes the other audio is not being picked up. So I'm going to put my microphone on it so you can hear it, okay? Hold on.
Put out there, as well as Latino networks. So what Comcast has been doing, Comcast has been saying, hey, wait a minute. Look at all of these other black networks we provided opportunities to. They mentioned TV One. They mentioned Revolt. Of course, Diddy's network. They mentioned Aspire, which was given to Magic Johnson. My understanding, Aspire has now been sold. I'm trying to confirm that. I'll give more back details. They talked about Afro TV and some other black networks that they have actually put out there, as well as Latino networks. So Diddy dropped this letter. Let's just say he ain't too happy. My name and my network, Revolt, have been mentioned recently by Comcast in reference to the Comcast Byron Allen U.S. Supreme Court case As an example, Comcast's inclusive practices with respect to African-American-owned cable networks. While it is true that we are in business with Comcast, it is not accurate to use my name or my network as an example of inclusion. I do not want my name to be used inaccurately, so I must speak my truth. I also want to make clear that this case is now about much more than cable distribution. It's about the civil rights of millions of African Americans and other minorities. First, it's important that people really understand what's at stake. In its efforts to get the lawsuit filed by Byron Allen dismissed, Comcast has taken a legal approach that could weaken fundamental civil rights protections. I have a problem with this. The Civil Rights Act of 1866, Section 1981, was designed to ensure black people are able to do business in this country and not be denied because of race. Comcast is arguing that this law only applies if racial discrimination is the only factor that leads to a refusal to do business, which would be extremely hard to prove. If they are successful, it will become much harder for any victim of discrimination to seek justice in court. By taking this stance in the Supreme Court, Comcast has put its legal tactics ahead of the rights of millions of Americans to be heard. This is not okay. Above anything else, my goal has always been to achieve true economic inclusion for black people. How can Comcast suggest that it champions diversity and inclusion if it attacks the laws that provide the foundation for economic inclusion? What good are any of their efforts if they are fighting to make it harder for victims of discrimination to be heard in court? Comcast has made this about much more than Byron Allen, and now the civil rights of my children and my community are at stake. To be clear, anything that makes it harder to fight against discrimination is wrong. Comcast is choosing to be on the wrong side of history. On Revolt, I can only share the truth of my experience. Starting an independent cable network is incredibly difficult and capital intensive. The start we received from Comcast, which was a condition of the United States government approval for Comcast to acquire NBC Universal, was important. But it is not the level of support needed to build a successful African-American-owned network. Not even close. Since that launch, our relationship has not grown, and Revolt is still not carried by Comcast in the most affordable packages, nor is Revolt available in all of the markets that would enable us to serve our target audience. Comcast spends billions of dollars on content network every year, but just a few million go to African-American-owned networks like Revolt. That is unacceptable. Supporting diversity and economic inclusion requires a real partnership. The only way black-owned networks grow and thrive is with meaningful and consistent economic support. Otherwise, they are set up to fail. Revolt has never been in a position to truly compete on a fair playing field because it has not received the economic and distribution support necessary for real economic inclusion. Our relationship with Comcast is the illusion of economic inclusion. Rather than using this case to diminish the civil rights protections of millions of Americans, Comcast should use this as an opportunity to listen to a community that relies on and above all do better. That was Diddy. That was yesterday. Well, today, Paula Madison, one of the owners of the Africa Channel, and a former NBC Universal executive, issued her own statement. Quote, the Africa Channel's relationship with Comcast has been cordial and at times even jovial, but our economic relationship cannot be described as a good one. Yes, Comcast is distributing TAC in business since 2005, and my family's investment business is the largest shareholder to about 4 million subscribers, but it has not meaningfully expanded our subscriber base beyond about 2 million Comcast subscribers. In 2011, during the Memorandum of Understanding process, TAC requested that Comcast count it among the 3 channels it will launch, believing those new channels will be distributed to tens of millions of Comcast subscribers. Because TAC was already carrying approximately 2 million Comcast households, TAC was denied and told we were ineligible. Indeed, Comcast is the largest distributor of our small independent cable network. At that time, Comcast assured the leaders of the NAACP, National Action Network, the National Urban League, that Comcast would increase TAC's subscriber count from 2 million to 6 million, which for a small independent cable network would have resulted in a palpable economic boost. Eventually, TAC received just half of the promised increase. Since then, TAC has been in conversations with Comcast regarding the additional cable carriage. We have been told that carrying TAC on demand might be a possible solution. The representative said Comcast is considering networks with 0 to very low license fees. And so with virtually no leverage, we offered to reduce our carriage fee or even agree to a flat fee in exchange for wider distribution. We still believe that a loss in carriage revenues would be offset by increased advertising revenue generated by a larger subscriber base. But Comcast has consistently dismissed those requests. TAC has been an extraordinarily good partner by supporting all of Comcast's multicultural initiatives, such as sponsoring the Adunde Festival, the largest African gathering in Philadelphia, home of Comcast, as well as other Xfinity VOD marketing initiatives targeting the African American community, but to no meaningful reciprocity. Although Comcast has not shut out TAC, Comcast has not been a good business partner. With an unkept yet repeated promise by Comcast of 4 million additional subscribers, it's inaccurate to include TAC in any grouping of Black-owned independent networks, which would typify the Comcast business relationship as good or in any way proactive. During the MOU process, I met with Chicago Congressman Bobby Rush as part of the congressional approval process. We met in his D.C. office, and he asked me to assure him that Comcast will continue the innovative and meaningful progress in diversity and inclusion that, as NBCU's EVP and Chief Diversity Officer, I had led at NBCU. I assure Congressman Rush that I did not know if the Comcast folks would do so and certainly had no way of predicting this. I did say that GE, NBCU's parent company, was an industry leader regarding diversity and inclusion, and that NBCU was an industry leader regarding diversity and inclusion, and that Comcast was promising Congress that it would work for greater economic success for the African American community, as stated by the commitments regarding procurement, banking, employment, etc. I said that I was meeting with him as one of my assigned responsibilities to fulfill what was needed to secure for Comcast the government approval to acquire and own NBCU. I said I was taking Comcast at its word. Launching these Black entrepreneurs' new cable networks without meaningful distribution and real economic inclusion, in my opinion, would result in a business model fraught with frustration and near futility. As the NBCU team leader who worked on and negotiated the MOU with the African American civil rights leaders, separately I had raised with Comcast that without a guaranteed subscriber count giving the Black entrepreneurs significant revenue and profit, the launch of these channels would not help them achieve success in business. Indeed, as an owner of the Africa Channel, I recused myself from any Comcast TAC discussions, but I also knew from my experience that without the key components of a guaranteed number of subscribers and revenue, running a profitable cable network would be very problematic. I shared these concerns with Comcast that the African American networks would be positioned to fail, and Comcast made it clear that it was only committed to launching these networks and not giving them the necessary distribution and economic support to succeed, period. None of the Black-owned networks sought cable carriage solely with Comcast. We all sought carriage on Time Warner, Charter, Cox, etc. However, Comcast was seeking to acquire one of the largest content creators in the world, NBC Universal. And for that reason, Congress legislated that Comcast enter the MOU. Comcast was bound by the agreement to launch the cable networks, but was not bound to distribute to a requisite number of household/subscribers, so the channels never had a good chance of having a profitable and successful business. The amount of money Black cable network owners get from their business relationship with Comcast can only be characterized as very small. In fact, Comcast spends in excess of $12 billion in licensing cable networks, of which Black-owned networks receive a negligible amount. Because the Africa Channel has been included in Comcast citations, which suggested that we are in a good business relationship, I am writing this statement to set the record straight. I felt compelled to speak up and tell the truth for many reasons, especially after reading the falsehoods spread by Brian Roberts and David Cohen of Comcast. As someone who was a corporate insider and helped to craft the MOU, I can honestly say that after reading Sean Diddy Combs' official statement about Comcast, he has every reason to feel the way he does. In fact, I considered some weeks ago filing an amicus brief to Byron Allen's lawsuit after communicating with my fellow Vassar College alum Sherilyn Eiffel or legal defense fund, I decided not to do so. I'm convinced there are a number of amicus briefs filed with SCOTUS that I believe make a positive and convincing argument that his case must be allowed to continue. I also spoke with National Association of Black Journalists President Dorothy Tucker, expressing my great concern that the Civil Rights Act of 1866 would be gutted by Comcast and U.S. Attorney General Barr. So I encourage NABJ, of which I'm a lifetime member, to speak out, and indeed NABJ has done so. After watching Comcast actions regarding the statute, I'm now convinced that I have to speak up. Again, this is the reason I am writing this statement.
Well, that's a mouthful.
Okay. So you see, there's a lot going on right there. A lot. And as I get my headset back on, you can see that we are still in a position, they're still trying to keep us in a position. Let me get back over here with you. They're still trying to keep us in a position where we are not able to do business as we are supposed to be able to do business. So first of all, they didn't give us 40 acres and a mule, right? And then they turned around and they didn't give us anything to be able to compete in the marketplace with. And now after civil rights and after, people have gone to school and they've learned the law and things like that, they continue to use the law against us. And so Congress told them that if they're going to buy NBC Universal, that they have to allow us to come to the table and give us a chance to be able to compete in those markets. Well, they said, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But what they didn't say was that you have to help them distribute their programs. So Roland Martin goes on to say here in a little bit that, there's like, you can have a record label, but if I don't distribute your records, what's the point in you having a record label? You're not going to make any money. You can have a label all you want to, but if I'm the biggest record distributor in the world and I tell you, yeah, you can have a record label, but then I don't help you distribute your records, I mean, you're only limited to what you can do locally or regionally. You can't get national and worldwide if I've got that sold up. So this is the thing that Byron Allen is going through right now. And he, with his network, started this fight with Comcast. And actually, they're going to the Supreme Court. And Comcast brought up the law from 1866. So the MOU is a mutual agreement of understanding, okay? And that agreement of understanding was made between the NAACP, Al Sharpton. I think I talked about this a little bit ago. I never gave them the right to speak for me, right? So if I want to watch a program like Roland Martin here, and he can't get on, and he what he says is that they put them in an area where black people can't afford the packages, where they'll put somebody down down low where you're down with the basic cable so you can get that channel, but you're down in the low channels like the 200s or whatever. They put you up in the 1000s, whatever else, so you have to pay for like Skybox, HBO, Stars, and all of that other stuff. You're paying $99 a month instead of $25 a month. You can get your basic cable, or maybe the next package up. So they put all of those shows or networks like Sean Combs and Byron Allen, they put them way out of your reach so you can't afford to get them that way. And say, oh, well, I allowed you to come to the table, but they don't allow you to get down there in the affordable packages so everybody else can see your show. So you can make a show, but if it's not available to anybody because they can't afford it, then who's going to see it? That's the whole point. Make it affordable. Let me come to the table. So they guaranteed the Africa channel 6 million viewers. They told them, we'll give you 6 million viewers, but then they only got like 2 million, 3 million, and they could have had more in subscriptions. So there's a whole lot to this. It goes way deep. You got to get the Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go watch that on YouTube and see the whole story. I just wanted to bring that point to you so you can see that there's a real fight going on in the background. Okay, that you just think that you turn on your TV. I don't watch television anymore, right? Everything I do is online. I can find all the news I want. If I want to see a program, I can find it. If there's a TV show I want to look at, and I didn't see it yesterday when it came out, primetime, whatever, I can look at it later on. It's not that serious to me. I have friends who were burning rubber to get home today because of the Rams football game. Do you watch you in football? No, I'm into this. I'm I do this when I come home. Okay, I have guitars and basses and drums. This is what I do when I come home. I do this with you when I come home. I'm not, brain dead on television, sitting on the couch drinking a beer and just, nodding out or whatever. I don't do that when I come home. I do things that stimulate my mind, like reading Flavius Josephus. So I wanted to share that with you to say that, listen, there's a fight that's still going on in this country, and racism is still alive. Don't think that it is not. If Comcast, listen, who was it? It was, he mentioned the people's names, and one of them was a Cohen. That's Ashkenazi Jew, right? Every time you turn around, the Ashkenazi Jews are behind almost everything we do. They own all the basketball teams. They own all the football teams. They own all the baseball teams, right? And at the heart of all of these teams are a bunch of Hebrews. So why is these Ashkenazi Jews, who were actually behind the transatlantic slave trade, why are they still in charge of us? Because they're watching everything we do. And they're keeping you busy so that you don't get a chance to come over here and cry out to the Most High like you're supposed to. They have you busy. They have you busy watching football and basketball. You're not going to be on your knees. They have you busy watching some dumb sitcom about some Negroes acting crazy. They even had a crazy sitcom called Black Jesus. I wanted to reach out and slap the TV. I'm like, are you kidding me? They got a TV show, Black, and I saw somebody was making fun of it on Facebook, and they made a meme out of it or something, and they had Black Jesus walking down the street with some Negroes. He was drinking a 40. I'm like, what? What? You kidding me? So that's how they mock us. It's bad enough that Japan just got over, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Sambo dolls. It's bad enough all around the world. They mock us. They mock us. And you're too busy. You won't even get on your face and cry out to the Most High. Now, we all have prayer issues, but we should all be doing so. Everybody, at this point, we should all be crying out to the Most High for this, and that's the only way this is going to end. He's waiting to hear from us, y'all. He's waiting to hear from us. So I watch this stuff, I see this stuff, and it drives me crazy as I'm watching it, as I'm seeing it. And there's not a whole lot hold on. Don't do that. So Roland Martin has different people on his show, and they were talking about that. So anyway, we are going to jump into Flavius Josephus. We were in book 4, chapter 3, and I believe we left off at verse 11 or verse 12, but we're going to pick it up at 11 to go back into it. Let's just read Flavius for a while, because we're getting to the point where this is Ananus has had his speech to the public, telling them that it's their fault for moving so slowly and allowing these guys to stack up in the city and then take over the city. And now that they want to try to rout them out of the city, it's so many of them. They should have did it before when it was only a few of them, and they could have prevented this. So that's where we are right now, and we're going to read a little bit of this tonight. We'll pick up some more tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm off, and we'll pick up some more tomorrow. I got to go feed Mama in the morning, so we'll get some of this, and we'll do this tonight. We'll get some more tomorrow when I come back from feeding Mama, and then we'll just keep moving with the Flavius. But pay attention to this. I'm sorry, I heard the pop. But pay attention to this Byron Allen and the Supreme Court thing. It's all over the news. It's all over the internet. Now, some major mainstream media might not be talking about this because they don't want you to know that Comcast owns a lot of channels. And Comcast owns, is a major. They're like right now they're the biggest major content provider since they bought NBC Universal, because Universal used to be by itself, and then either NBC bought Universal or Universal bought NBC, but they swallow each other up all the time. And so now Comcast owns NBC, used to be Channel 5, and Universal was Universal Studios. Now Comcast owns that. I remember when Viacom, who was it? Viacom got bought by. Anyway, they swallow each other up all the time, and now it's like Dish Network, and it was a big satellite. Who's the other one? Dish and DirecTV, who's also a big satellite. You got AT&T Uverse. You got there's a bunch. You have to watch this Roland Martin piece. He mentions all of it. He goes all the way through it. Anyway, but pay attention to this, because this involves all of us. Like all of a sudden, you never hear Sean saying anything. P Diddy, you never hear him saying anything. You never hear Jay-Z saying anything. You never hear you never hear these black network owners. You never hear them saying anything, especially P Diddy. And so they used P Diddy's name to say, look, we work with black people. And he's like, hey, wait a minute, don't put me in that like that, because our relationship is not that good. And that's why the lady from the Africa Channel wrote hers. Now, she was in the room when they wrote the mutual thing of understanding, that agreement of understanding with Al Sharpton. She said she was sitting in the room and she knew it wasn't right then, but she didn't say anything. Because she was not, as a business owner, she had to recuse herself. Which means I'm here, but I can't speak on it. I'm just here, like as a witness. So she dismissed herself from it, and but she even had to say, look, my relationship, and I got the Africa Channel, and my relationship with them, even though they carry my station, it's not the greatest. They've lied to us, and they didn't keep their promises to Congress. So Byron Allen was saying that, look, you guys can't do this, and they went to the Supreme Court, and then it was Comcast who drug out the law from after slavery. Byron Allen didn't drag that out. Comcast drug that out, and then they tried to make it look like Byron drug it out to use it. And so that's why all the black network owners are getting mad now, because they're starting to see how Comcast is backpedaling and trying to throw the law up, in a situation where if they win on that level, then we could never come back as blacks and say, look, they didn't include us at the table. So that's the whole point. We got to show that they're being racist about what they're doing, and that's why all the black owners are stepping up, saying, look, they're not being fair. Congress told them they had to do this, and they're still not doing it, but they're trying to make it look like they are, and trying to make it look like we're at fault. So that's why you got to follow this. Okay, so Flavius got us at Ananus has already talked to them, and so they're saying that Ananus is saying, look, I'm going to throw my body in it, everything I got, and even my life and my body, okay? And so right here it says, I will assist you both with my counsel and with my hand. This is where we left off. I will assist you both with my counsel and with my hand, nor shall any sagacity of ours be wanting for your support, nor shall you see that I will be sparing my body neither. 11. By these motives, Ananus encouraged the multitude to go against the zealots, although he knew how difficult it would be to disperse them, because of their multitude and their youth and the courage of their souls, but chiefly because of their conscience of what they had done, since they would not yield, as not so much as hoping for a pardon for the last of those their enormities. However, Ananus resolved to undergo whatever sufferings might come upon him, rather than overlook things now. They were in such great confusion. Okay, so rather than overlook things now that they were in such confusion, I think is more of an understanding for us today. So the multitude cried out to him to lead them on against those whom he had described in his exhortation to them. and every one of them was most readily disposed to run any hazard whatsoever on that account. Now in 12, now while Ananus was choosing out his men, look how you spell choosing. See how you spell choosing? Now, as Ananus was choosing out his men and putting those that were proper for his purpose in array for fighting, because they had never fought before, the zealots got information of this undertaking. For there were some who went to them and told them all that the people were doing, and were irritated at it, and leaping out of the temple in crowds and by parties, spared none whom they met with. Upon this, Ananus got the populace together on the sudden. So all of a sudden, it's like, look, we got to get together now. Who were more numerous indeed than the zealots, but inferior to them in arms. So they didn't know how to fight. But it was more of them, because they had not been regularly put into array for fighting. So they weren't regularly put into training for fighting. So they didn't know how to fight. They knew how to. They got mad and they were ready. They'd fight any kind of way they would. Brick, sticks, and mortar. They would whatever they could do, they were going to fight. By the alacrity that everybody showed, spoiled all their defects on both sides. By the alacrity that everybody showed, supplied all their defects on both sides. The citizens taking up such great a passion was stronger than arms, and deriving a degree of courage from the temple more forcible than any multitude whatsoever. And indeed, these citizens thought it was not possible for them to dwell in the city unless they could cut off the robbers that were in it. The zealots also thought that unless they prevailed, there would be no punishment so bad, but it would be inflicted on them. So their conflicts were conducted by their passions, and at the first day they only cast stones at each other in the city. Okay, so when they first started fighting each other, they were throwing rocks back and forth. They hadn't even come together yet. Okay, and before, which is in front of or outside of the temple, they threw their javelins at a distance. But when either of them were too hard for the other, they made use of their swords. So when it got to the point where, my rocks wasn't getting you and my javelins wasn't getting you, I'm pulling out my sword, I'm coming at you. And the slaughter was made great on both sides. And a great number were wounded. As for the dead bodies of the people, their relations carried them out to their own houses. So the people who were fighting against the zealots, when they got wounded or killed, then their family came and took them up off of what would be called the battlefield in the city. Okay? Now, again, where was this battlefield in the city? The battlefield in the city was, hold on, let me show it to you because we got it right here. The battlefield in the city was, we don't want that. Here it is. Oh no, that's not. Is that the one? Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. Well, let's see. Let me find the other one. No. Let me find the other one. Hold on. Because that's the temple. That's the temple where they were fighting, but off in the distance on the left there, that's the city. Back there in the distance. Okay. I had the. Here we go. We got this one. Okay, so you can see where the temple is up here on the top of this mountain. Down in the left is the city. Now they fought all the way out of the city, all the way up onto the top of that mountain. Okay, where the temple is. They fought all the way up to the temple. Now they got themselves barricaded in the temple. And so when their bodies are laying out down around here, the whole nine, what they do is that the families would take them off of that battlefield, which was right there in front of the temple. Okay, so that's what we got, to take them off the battlefield right there in front of the temple. So, let's see. Let's go right here. And a great number were wounded. As for the dead bodies of the people, their relations carried them out to their own houses. But when any of the zealots were wounded, they went up into the temple and defiled the sacred floor with his blood. Insomuch that one may say, it was their blood alone that polluted our sanctuary. Now in these conflicts, the robbers always sallied out of the temple and were too hard for their enemies. But the populace grew very angry and became more and more numerous and reproached those that gave back. And those behind would not afford room to those that were going off, but forced them on again, till at length they made their whole body turn against their adversaries, and the robbers could no longer oppose them, but were forced gradually to retire into the temple. So they were fighting them so hard they were backing up into the temple. When Ananus and his party fell into it at the same time together with them, now they're inside the temple grounds. This horribly affrighted the the robbers. I'm gonna let me see if I can, because I did a thing the other day when I made my mouse scroll more lines. So I wanna barely make it move. Let's see. This horribly affrighted the robbers because it deprived them of the first court. So they fled to the inner court immediately and shut the gates. Okay, so it deprived them of the first court. Now, let me see if I have that aerial shot. I do have an aerial shot of the temple. Let me see if I can, hold on. I do have the aerial shot. I just don't know if I loaded it up here for you guys. I did not. I did not load it up here. So I'm not gonna load it up right now, but I'm gonna tell you like this. That heathen is laying inside the hole. She's on top of the altar in the Holy of Holies. Okay. Now in the Holy of Holies, where she's laying, that heathen, here's this other one who is inside, standing next to the altar. Okay. And standing next to the altar, or kneeling down between the two altar stones, is this heathen, and with his shoes on inside the temple. Okay, this is what Joshua Mario was trying to prevent, but Israel opened it up as a tourist attraction and let people walk up in there with the shoes on and the whole nine. But anyway, they were inside the temple. This is part of the places where they were, and so with them being in the temple this way, they were able to close the gates and shut themselves in, right, to the inner court. Okay, so the inner court of the temple is just beyond these gates. You have to walk past those gates and you walk into the fort, and you'll be walking up into the temple. Okay, and so it's just beyond those gates. So there's an outer court and an inner court, and then there's the inner court, which has the Holy of Holies. And so I have an aerial shot, which you can see. You look down on top of it, but I didn't load it up. But I wanted to show you as much as I could of this as we talked about this Flavius Josephusness. So they locked themselves in and they shut the gates. Now Ananus did not think fit to make any attack against the holy gates, although the other threw stones and darts at them from above. He also deemed it unlawful to introduce the multitude into that court, because before they were purified, because you can't go in there. Only the priests can go in there. He therefore chose out of them all by lot 6,000 armed men and placed them as guards in the cloisters. So there was a succession of such guards, one after another, and every one was forced to attend in his course. Although many of the chief of the city were dismissed by those that then took on them the government, upon them hiring some of the poorer sort and sending them to keep the guard in their stead. So you have, look, here's the chief of the city were dismissed by those that then took on them the government. Okay, so the chief of the city have hired some of the poorer sort to take their place. So that's like if Barack Obama and Donald Trump hired me and you to go stand there. They're supposed to be guarding the gate, and they hire you and I to go stand in the gate. So if anything break out, we'd be the ones that have to fight and get killed instead of them. Okay, that's the kind of thing that was going on right here. Okay, that the chiefs of the city were dismissed by those that then took on them the government, upon their hiring some of the poorer sort and sending them to keep the guard in their stead. Okay, charlatans. Now it was John who, as we told you, ran away from Gischala. He's the one that started this whole mess in Jerusalem. Ran away from Gischala and was the occasion of all these being destroyed. It was his fault that all of this was going down. He was a man of great craft, and bore about him in his soul a strong passion after tyranny. He also liked war, and was at a distance was the advisor in these actions. He was the one that was telling the robbers what to do behind the scenes. And indeed, at this time, he pretended to be of the people's opinion, and went all about with Ananus when he consulted the great man every day, and in the nighttime also when he went round the watch. But he divulged their secrets to the zealots, and everything that the people deliberated about was by his means known to their enemies, even before it had been well agreed by themselves. So before they could put anything into action, he's already told them, "Hey, look, man, they over here. This is what they're gonna do next. So you guys got to do this. You got to do that, because they're gonna do this next." He cultivated the greatest friendship possible with Ananus and with the chief of the people. Yet did this overdoing of his turn against him, for he flattered them so extravagantly that he was but the more suspected. And his constant attendance everywhere, even when he was not invited to be present, made him strongly suspected of betraying their secrets to the enemy. So they knew that John was selling them out, for they plainly perceived that they understood all of the resolutions taken against them at their consultations. Nor was there anyone whom they had such a reason to suspect of that discovery as this John. Yet it was not easy to get shut of him. So it wasn't easy to get away from him. He was, every time they turn around, he was there. So potent was he grown by his wicked practices. Okay, so it wasn't easy to get away from him. Every time they turn around, he was there, and he always figured out and you know what? That's just how slippery and slick the devil is. That's this John. Okay, and the Father is allowing him to do this because Jerusalem has to be taken down. Jerusalem is about to fall. And it's this John who's behind it all. He's the snake. Even Yeshua said, 12 of you have I chosen, and one of you is a snake. One of you is a devil. Okay, I've chosen all 12 of you by my own hand, and even one of you is a devil. So there's always that one, and this is the one that's being used to take Jerusalem down. Okay. He was also supported by many of those eminent men. So he was supported by, like the chiefs of the city, the eminent men. Who were to be consulted upon for all considerable affairs. It was therefore thought reasonable to oblige him to give them assurance of his goodwill upon an oath. So they made him swear, and they took him at his word. You see, because back in the day, when you swore, you gave your word. Your word was everything, right? But his word didn't mean anything. His word was trash. John's word was trash. Accordingly, John took such an oath readily, that he would be on the people's side and would not betray any of their counsels or practices to their enemies, and would assist them overthrowing those that attacked them, and that both by his hand and advice. So Ananus and his party believed his oath, and did now receive him in their consultations. So now that he swore, they did this without any further suspicion. Nay, so far did they believe him that they shut him. Oh no. They believed him so well. This is how well he convinced them, that they sent him as their ambassador into the temple to the zealots with proposals of accommodation, for they were very desirous to avoid the pollution of the temple. They didn't want to kill anybody in the temple as much as they possibly could, and that no one of their nation should be slain therein. So they didn't want to kill another black man in the temple. They didn't want to kill another Hebrew in the temple. They was like, listen, we got a bunch of people, because there's a lot of people here who are not from Jerusalem. A lot of people here who are not from us, but because they're robbers and thieves and thugs, and that's what's going on in the city right now. Those are the bands that they were joining. So he convinced them so well that they said, listen, we need you to go talk to the zealots for us. Now, he's the main one that's giving up all the secrets, but now he's going to walk in there with their proposals for accommodation. But now this John, this is 14. But now this John, as if his oath had been made to the zealots and for the confirmation of his goodwill to them and not against them, went into the temple and stood in the midst of them and spake as follows, that he had run many hazards on their account, and in order to let them know of everything that was secretly contrived against them by Ananus and his party, but that both he and they should be cast into the most imminent danger unless some providential assistance were afforded them. For that Ananus made no longer delay, but had prevailed with the people to send ambassadors to Vespasian to invite him to come presently and take the city. Okay, so this is the thing that when John left the other city and he left all those people behind, as soon as they left, the people came out and said, "Listen, it wasn't us fighting you. It was John and his group." Because they went and told Vespasian that it was John, and so they went and told Titus. Titus is Vespasian's son. They went and told Titus, "Listen, it wasn't us." And Titus was hot. He was like, "I'm gonna catch John. You guys go get him. Go run him down and get him." But he had got away to Jerusalem by then, so they didn't catch him. And so Titus was steaming. He said, "Okay, so pull the wall down like we took the city, and then we'll put soldiers in here to keep these guys in check, because we know that John left some bad guys behind, right? And we just won't kill them, So the people, gave it up, and so now he's telling them, look, they're gonna send ambassadors to Vespasian and tell Vespasian to come take the city. They're gonna give the city up to Vespasian. So now they're really afraid because they know the Romans are coming. After all, see, they was talking all that trash at first, like, we beat the Romans, but now they're afraid because they know the Romans are coming, and they know that Ananus and his group are going to, if anything, fight along with the Romans, to give the city to the Romans, let Rome take the city. To save the city, that's what's going on. In order to try to save the city, they want to give the city to Vespasian because they know the Romans can take out all the bad guys, okay? And that he had appointed a fast for the next day against them. So now we got a fast going on. Now we praying to the Most High. We got a fast and we praying to the Most High because if you're gonna fast, you're gonna pray. He appointed a fast for the next day against them, that they might obtain admission into the temple on a religious account, and to gain it by force and fight with them there. That he did not see how long they could either endure a siege or how they could fight against so many enemies. So it's like, you can't fight against me and the Romans, so we're going to call a fast, and we'll see, what we're going to do. Are we going to take it by force? Now, he added further that it was by providence of God that he was himself sent as an ambassador to them for an accommodation. For that Ananus did therefore offer them such proposals, that he might come upon them when they were unarmed, that they ought to choose one of these two methods, either to intercede with those that guarded them to save their lives, or to provide some foreign assistance for themselves. That if they fostered themselves with the hopes of pardon in case they were subdued, they had forgotten what desperate things they had done, or could suppose that as soon as the actors repented, those that had suffered by them may be presently reconciled to them, while those that were done injuries, though they pretended to repent of them, were frequently hated by the others for that sort of repentance. And that the sufferers, when they got the power into their hands, are usually still more severe upon the actors. That the friends of kindred of those that have been destroyed would always be laying plots against them, and that a large body of people were very angry on account of their gross breaches of their laws and illegal judicatures, insomuch that although some part may commiserate them, those would be quite overborne by the majority. Okay, so now we're in chapter 4, and they're saying that, they're hoping that they could take this pardon, but just like, remember, because Titus did the same thing. He didn't kill everybody, and he hoped that if we leave you alone in the city, the people, the people know who you are. They know what you did. We got soldiers here, so you can't run on them like you were before we got here. And now the people and the soldiers are back in control, and the people they're not gonna sell you no bread. They're not gonna give you any clothing. They're not gonna have you a place to sleep. So your guilt is what's gonna kill you. And so they knew that that the same thing could happen to them here. Even with their repentance, the people, this is the same kind of judgment that would come upon them for their illegal breaches of their laws and everything else, by putting high priests that weren't supposed to be high priests in place, and by putting city leaders in government who weren't supposed to be city leaders in government, putting them in place. So all these little wicked things that they were doing to lean heavily on the people and robbing them and killing them, because they killed a bunch of honorable men in the city for no reason, and John slashed their throats himself. So this is what they're looking at, and they're about to have some ambassadors go out to Vespasian and tell Vespasian, we're waiting for you in the city. So that's chapter 3, and we're going into chapter 4 now. The Idumeans, being sent for by the zealots, came immediately to Jerusalem, and when they were excluded out of the city, they lay all night there. That's Joshua, or Jesus, one of the high priests, makes a speech to them, and Simon the Idumean makes a reply to it. So that's what's going to be when we roll into chapter 4. Okay? So, it's starting to get kind of interesting. It's going to be really good, really, really interesting here shortly. So that's it, family. Man, look, tomorrow we'll get back in here, we'll read some more, we'll pick up on chapter 4. I'm going to get back into here, and go back in here and start working on this track and see if I can pull something out from my little friend who had a challenge in her life. I just never knew that. It's amazing, when you hear those things. Pray for your people when you hear those things. I gave her some encouragement. I sent her a voice message, gave her some encouragement, and told her that we'll work today. So when I come home from feeding Mama, I'm going to spend some time in Messenger Live with her and her laptop and getting her set up, and let this music flow out of her the way it's supposed to. So sing songs of praise, sing songs of worship. Get out of the world right now. Get out of the world right now. Sing your songs of praise, sing your songs of worship. That's all I'm doing, and trying to share that love with the people who are around me. Okay? So we'll see you next time, family. Thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you next time. All right. I hear a noise. I don't know where that noise is coming from. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we'll see you next time.